Hey there, fast packers, backpackers, and all you gear lovers. I just got back from an overnight summer trip and I thought I would run through a really simple gear loadout for summer trip one night. And since I haven't unpacked my backpack yet, I thought I would give you the absolute full rundown of a really simple kit that doesn't cost a whole lot, except for my tent, but there's an easy substitute. And it just worked really, really well for a simple 20-mile, 2-day, 1-night trip in the southern Pennsylvania Appalachian Trail. So this is the Gossamer Gear Fast Kumo 36. I've got my reading glasses because I recently turned 57 years old. This little backpacking trip was just a nice little activity for my birthday week, but I want to go through the full gear loadout because it's been a couple years since I've done a loadout, and this time I was actually doing a really super simple, minimal kind of loadout. So my base weight came in right about 10 pounds, maybe a hair over with my phone and wallet. That's counting everything. And then I was usually carrying about 2 liters of water and maybe 4 pounds of food, 3 pounds of food at the start. So let's go through the clothing first because I was trying something different with my clothing. So I've got the Outdoor Vitals sun hoodie. This comes in at like 4 ounces. I absolutely love it. It was super humid and sweaty, so I was completely soaked from sweat, and this sun hoodie dried out in like maybe an hour of just wearing it. Once I got to camp, once I got to the shelter, it dried out like super fast. I'm also wearing running shorts. This is what I wear, you know, in all of my running activities. And I thought, you know, why not just wear simple spandex for a backpacking trip? There wasn't going to be much rock scrambling or any rock scrambling at all. It was all really nice, well-maintained trails. And for me, my anatomy is that my legs always rub together, and no amount of Body Glide or any kind of, you know, treatment will do anything. I've tried for 25 years. So the best thing for me is to have actual fabric that rubs and has very low friction, so I have to have the longer pants. So whether it's, you know, boxer briefs or spandex, that's what works for me. And this is just basic, you know, running shorts, spandex from Amazon, and they come in at like 3 ounces per pair. And I don't need underwear. This is my underwear. It's my everything wear. I sleep in this. I sleep in this hoodie. I don't bring dedicated sleep clothes. And actually, your clothing will dry out a lot faster if you wear it to sleep than if you try to use a clothesline, especially when it is super humid out. I'm wearing longer socks, higher socks, because I wanted to not use gaiters this time. I'm trying to simplify the system a little bit. These are just regular running socks, but in a mid-calf length. They worked great for not getting dirt into my socks, but dirt, you know, and debris still got into my shoe. It didn't bother me at all, but I think I will want to wear some kind of small gaiter in the future. And then I've got some these are Ultra Timp trail runners, which I've used Ultra for like 15 years, which really works well for me. And then, of course, I'm wearing a cap. Being bald, I always cover my head. I've got the sun hoodie as well, which works, you know, really well, and I use that a lot over the weekend. But the cap is really nice, and I actually like this cap. It's not a large bill, but it is black on the underside, and that seems to help with reflection a lot as well. But I'll take it off now, just to try to help out with visual of me, right? And then I was wearing a Garmin watch, and I did track my data. Maybe I'll talk about that in this video or another video. And then I was wearing my road ID as well, just because anytime I'm doing any kind of activity, I always wear my road ID, not sponsored by them. And then I've got my reading glasses, And rather than using very minimal micro glasses, since I'm using the Far Out app and looking at the maps regularly, this is just a lot easier on and off. And I just have some simple cord that I made a leash for myself. And this cord's actually not Reflectix, but reflective cord, which just makes it easier to see, you know, in the nighttime if I need that. But usually I'll take out my contacts and wear regular glasses, so I won't need the reading glasses then. But just very helpful. Okay, so that's everything that I'm wearing. So the shirt's 4 ounces, the pants are 3 ounces, the socks are, you know, an ounce or two. You know, what I'm wearing is only, you know, like less than half a pound. It's almost like being naked outside. And it was so comfortable getting fully soaked through with sweat 2 days in a row. It was just incredibly comfortable. So I can't say enough about this outfit. You saw the trekking poles. These are Black Diamond, like flip block trekking poles. I've had these poles for, I don't know, 20 years now. So, you know, they're not the lightest poles on the market, but, you know, I've had them for 20 years. They've held up. So why not just keep using them? Okay. So I'm going to start going through the gear now. I've talked about this before. This is the Gossamer Gear Kumo 36 Fast. I really like this pack. I was carrying much more minimal gear this time, and it just felt so comfortable and worked so well. So I'm going to go through the pockets on the outside first. I've got a handkerchief, cotton handkerchief tied. This was great for sweat and wiping my nose. I used this constantly, and having it tied right here was super convenient. In the shoulder pocket, a smart water bottle with a sport cap worked really, really well. Carrying a liter of water, having it very accessible, that was great. And that's really all that I had in these pockets. And then in this top pocket, I had chapstick and a little micro knife, you know, the regular Swiss Equinox, I think it is, knife. I didn't even use it, but it has the scissors and the file and the knife, the toothpick and the tweezers. So I didn't even need it, but it's just so simple and lightweight to have. So that's this shoulder. On this shoulder pocket, or this shoulder strap, and these are the running vest style. I didn't run, but I could have. It's very stable. I could have easily run with this pack. But I am carrying a personal mace. And the reason I carry this all the time now is because several years back, there was a weird incident in one of the AT shelters at night, in the middle of the night. A very odd character, and we had a big incident at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So now I always carry a little bit of mace, you know, for that kind of protection. Even though I was with a friend on this trip, it's just easy to have this little bit of personal mace that weighs like an ounce or two. It's $10 at Walmart. So I had that, didn't need it. I did carry a selfie stick, but on this trip, I didn't take any pictures or video. The only video I did take, and maybe I'll put some in, was just to capture some sounds of birds. And sounds of a babbling brook, just some water sounds. So that when I make videos in the future, I can use my own recordings rather than trying to find recordings or use AI to get recordings of nature sounds. So I just got my own. That's the only time I used my camera this time around. So the selfie stick is just very convenient in its pocket, even though I didn't use it. And then I'm recording on my phone, but the phone, which is a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, fits in this zippered pocket. And it's very accessible, very easy and comfortable there. So that covers the straps, okay? On this side of the pack, I carried a liter Nalgene bottle. I know it's very large, but it fits very well on this side of the pack. And I use this to roll out my muscles. There's other videos on my channel all about injury prevention and recovery. I did use this to roll out my quads and my calves, and it felt amazing after a day of hiking. That was fantastic. It's also easier to filter or gather water a lot of times with this largemouth Nalgene. And there's also a lot of other uses. So I'm a big fan of the Nalgene, even though it's a little heavier than a smart water bottle. It's also easier to put drink mixes and so on in this. I did start the trip with a full liter, and I used half strength Heed, which is Hammer Nutrition's sport drink. And that was very helpful in the afternoon on that first day. So that's this side. On this side, I pretty much would just carry my Be-Free water filter, which is empty now. It still has some residual in it because I'm just unpacking now. But I have to say, I'm new to the filter. For decades, I've used bleach to purify my water. And I love using bleach because it's so simple. It's 2 to 4 drops per liter and then wait 30 minutes. And what I noticed is that by having a filter where the water is instantly drinkable, not having to wait 30 minutes, it just freed up a lot of my mental space and planning on my water system, my water needs. So by having it instantly accessible, I didn't have to plan out gathering water and waiting. I could just get water, and in a minute, I'd have drinkable water, or instantly if I wasn't filtering this into another bottle. And you can see this is my full capacity, which is 3 full liters between the Be-Free, the Nalgene, and the smart water bottle. And I carry these 3 different kinds for different reasons, because my smart water bottle is also my bidet as part of my poop kit. So that's 3 liters of water carrying capacity, but I typically only carry 2 liters or maybe 1 on the second day. Okay, so still going through the pack. Let's go through the back pouch, because there's just all kinds of things stuffed into here. So we'll just start pulling them out. I really dialed in my food very well this time. So my leftover items are some peanut butter. I did have some of this peanut butter, but not the full container. I only dipped into it one time on one break. So peanut butter. And, oh, here's my poop kit. So this is my entire poop kit, which is some Purell, hand sanitizer for afterwards. My trowel, which is a knockoff Deuce of Spades, very inexpensive, like 10 bucks on Amazon. Again, I'm doing a lot of pricing here because I want to help show people how inexpensive it can be to get a full gear kit, and you don't have to break the bank, and it's easy to gather. And then I have this bidet that I got during like COVID times, and I was using it at home. In fact, I haven't bought toilet paper since 2020 because this was a 3-pack of these for $10 on Amazon. And this, just sticks into smaller mouth bottles. And that's my entire poop kit. And, I don't need a special Dyneema bag for these things. You can have it, that's fine. But Ziploc bags are just as good, and they're so simple, and they're so light and replaceable. So that's all I have for my poop kit. I'm also very experienced using natural TP on my NOLS course back in 1998, up in Alaska in 2001 for 3 weeks. All we used was natural TP 100% of the time. So that's like sticks and rocks and moss, maybe dry pine cones, never leaves, never anything off of trees. It's really simple, and that works completely fine for natural TP. You can pull back the moss and get a nice hole to go to the bathroom there. pull back a rock and you can go to the bathroom there if you don't have a trowel. So there's lots of ways of very easily managing your elimination needs. Okay, so digging more. Okay, so this is just a small piece of Tyvek. I didn't use it on this trip, but obviously it weighs like a couple of grams. But the reason I brought it is just in case I wanted to put drink mix into my smallmouth bottle, like the Smart Water bottle. You can make it into a little bit of a cone or filter, and it just makes it that much easier to get your powder mix into a smaller size opening. So that's why I brought this, you know, just to throw it in. What's also in here is, here we go, is the cork ball. And so I'm all about, you know, injury prevention, injury recovery. And this cork ball is what I use on my glutes. I use it in a standing position, leaning against a wall, like the shelter wall. So the cork ball is between my glute, my butt, and the wall, and then I can roll my glute that way. I am not a fan of rolling the bottom of my feet or any kind of tendons, because I don't believe that rolling the tendons is really the goal. I think the real goal is to roll your muscles, not your tendons. But again, if it feels good, you know, do it. If it works for you, that's fine. But you can check out my whole playlist, you know, wherever I might put that in for you, about injury prevention, injury recovery. And again, I just turned 57 years old, and I've been 25 years injury-free as an Ironman triathlete and coach and backpacker and ballroom dancer. So it's not magic, but as long as what I believe is if you're rolling your muscles, not your tendons, then that is the real key. It's not about strength. It's not about stretching and flexibility or elongating your muscle. It's really about releasing the knots in your muscles. Okay, so I'll try not to say too much more on that, because I have tons of videos on my channel to help you with your aches and pains. Okay. Okay, moving in. So this is an empty Ziploc bag, and we were expecting rain on this trip most of the days leading up. And this was just an empty Ziploc bag for my phone. That's all. And I didn't use it. Okay. Here is a buff. And this buff and this hat were provided to me for free from Hammer Nutrition. I asked them if they would sponsor me for my AT through hike in 2025, which I ended up not doing. I decided not to do the hike, but they did provide me with some free gear and nutrition. So I am sponsored by Hammer Nutrition. And I did wear the buff all night, even though the temperatures got down to like the low 60s and I was in a tent. But it's just, again, you know, my head gets cold. I like to be warm. So the buff obviously has lots of different purposes, and I did wear it on my head during this trip. And again, I am sponsored by Hammer. So very simple item. A lot of you already have a buff. What else? Here is another Ziploc bag. This is probably left over from my food. I might have had, I had 2 days of lunches, which was a tortilla and a portion of summer sausage. That was lunch on both days. And that could have been this Ziploc bag. What else? So I also had a camp towel. Now, I typically do use a camp towel, but I did not use it on this trip. I didn't wash up. I didn't clean up. We got in a little later than I would have liked. Not terribly late, but a little bit later, so I didn't really wash up. But in the future, I might use this as like a washcloth, in addition to other uses for a camp towel. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. Okay, what else? I also brought with me oh goodness. I also brought with me compression sleeves. Now, I didn't wear these, but I'm a big fan of compression sleeves. I probably should have worn them, to be perfectly honest, because it was so hot and humid. And I have found, and the data is really strong, that compression sleeves on your calves, your lower leg, really help with blood flow return and overall recovery. I sometimes wear these at night, like when I was on the John Muir Trail. I wore them every night. Super good for recovery. I didn't wear them this time, but I probably should have. Okay, also in here, I brought a Swedish cloth. This, weighs grams. And again, I was expecting rain. So this was going to be mostly to get the water off of my tent. So it's just a little drier to pack it up and whatever other, sopping up the water needs would be. So a Swedish cloth, super light, super simple, super absorbable. And just really helpful to throw, in the back. And it's flat, so it just doesn't take up much volume. So I really like that. Keeping things tight, right? Okay, since it's popping out, I'm going to show you my full kitchen, because I was cold soaking on this trip or eating already prepared food. I wasn't cooking anything. And more, I'm cold soaking rather than using a stove, because between the fuel, the stove, and the pot, it's just more complication than what I want for my backpacking trips. And I also just hate how all the pots take up so much space on the back. They stick out like this, and it's just aesthetically not really pleasing to me. So I just like the simplicity of things that are flat, already prepared. Cold soaking is easy. Now, I've just got this simple plastic spoon. I think I got this, 15 years ago at REI for like 50 cents. These are the kind that are like really hard to break. So I love this spoon. Very simple, just a plastic spoon. And it's not a deep handle, because I'm not using the prepackaged freeze-dried meals where I have to dig in deep into a large pouch. So I can have a shorter spoon, and that's just fine. So what I was using for cold soaking was this reusable silicone Ziploc bag. And it might look large, but it gets about half full with just one packet of ramen. I also have a recipe of instant rice, freeze-dried refried beans, and freeze-dried TVP, textured vegetable protein, and soaked in cold water for about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. It fully rehydrates. You can dump out the extra water or drink it. Add seasoning, maybe add a chicken pouch or tuna or something. And it's a full meal. And I love how flat it is. And, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can fill it up with the dry food, add the water, stick it in the back pouch, the back pocket of the backpack, and everything is still laying really pretty flat, and it's just soaking simply. So I was on an airplane doing a backpacking meal on an airplane, since I didn't want to buy airplane food or airport food. So I used a Ziploc, just a regular Ziploc bag, to cold soak my ramen. Well, it leaked, and Ziploc bags can definitely do that. But these silicone bags, and you can get like a pack of like, a dozen for $10 or so on Amazon, and just reuse. And it seals so much better, and it's really unlikely to leak, and it's super lightweight. I forget the weight of this, but maybe an ounce. It just works so much better, and then cleaning it out is easy. Now, I could eat out of it. I could spoon the food out of this Ziploc bag, but I found that eating out of a bag without any structure is just not very appealing to me, and it's annoying, and it's very clumsy. I think I got a bug. It's just very clumsy. So instead of mixing the seasoning in this, making it harder to clean, I just soak the product, typically carbohydrates, but maybe some protein that's freeze-dried, if I do that. Soaking it in this and then transferring it to one of these snap together bowls. So again, you can get a pack. This was a pack of a bowl, a cup, and a plate, which the plate's useless to me, but a bowl and a cup for like $10 on Amazon. This bowl weighs 1.2 ounces. This cup weighs 0.7 ounces. I don't do the gram conversion, sorry. So my entire kitchen is like 3 ounces. And what I found, because I thought it would be really nice just to have my cold coffee in the cup, but it just didn't really add anything. I could just as easily do my cold coffee in the bowl in the morning. It's instant coffee. I do like half decaf, half regular. That's just my thing. Instant black coffee, cold. I'll just do it out of the cup or out of the bowl from now on, because the cup just really didn't add much to me. And what's nice is things don't really stick to this plastic, and you can rinse it with water and drink it. And then when you've done all of that, then you can unsnap it. And to finish the cleaning, you can literally lick it clean, and then it just dries really quick. So in the future, it'll just be 1.2 ounces, 1 ounce, that's like 2 ounces plus a spoon. So for like less than 2.5 ounces, I've got my entire kitchen. So that's my future. And again, look at how flat all of this is. It just slides right into the back pocket, and it's so flat, it's not just sticking out. And having that structure of the bowl just made eating the ramen just so much more enjoyable. So it's not just about the efficiency and the weight, it's how much enjoyment am I having on these backpacking adventures, right? So that's just kind of how I've been morphing into, the backpacking world since I got started in 1998. So, almost 30 years ago, right? And again, the reason why getting lighter and simpler and more compact is so important to me, it's not just about being ultra light, which I like being very light. It's really, for me, about simplicity, and the weight does become a major factor, because on my Knowles course back in 98, when we were doing mountaineering and glacial travel, at one point we had a 12-day food ration. My backpack was 84 pounds with a 12-day food ration. I never want to carry anything even close to that heavy ever again. So that's a big reason why I've gotten simpler and lighter as the decades have gone by. That's why it's important to me. So, so for me, ultralight isn't just about the ultimately lightest gear and kit as possible. It's also the simplicity and the freedom and reducing the mental load of having to manage all of these different pieces and complexities. So that's what it is for me. Okay. More items. Also in my back pocket are my stakes. And I actually ended up bringing more stakes than I thought I was bringing, because I didn't check it. But in here I have 6 shepherd hooks, which is usually my typical stake. But since I was using a tent that I wanted to have more stability, especially if storms came through, I have 4 MSR groundhogs. I think they're the full length groundhogs. And I just made this little DIY Tyvek pouch with Tyvek tape to carry them in. So I only needed 4 stakes plus 2 for the tent. So I used the 4 groundhogs in the corners and then 2 shepherd hooks, and then I had a lot of shepherd hooks left over. I could probably just use shepherd hooks in the future, but it's only maybe an ounce, and to have that extra security of the groundhogs, why not? So that's my stakes in the back pocket. And then the last item, I did throw it in is an ultralight bear hanging kit. It's a Dyneema pouch with like the 50 feet of cord and a little micro carabiner. I didn't need this because I knew that there were going to be bear hanging poles or a lockbox at, lock cache at the shelter site because I was on the AT. But just in case we were deciding to camp somewhere else that we weren't at a shelter, if we were doing dispersed camping, I wanted to have the bear line just in case. Oh, I'm going to be in the sun, but that's my problem, not yours. Okay, so that's what the pack is looking like now. So a lot of the Gossamer backpacks do the over-the-top flap, and I actually kind of like it. Again, it makes it kind of sleek and all. And even though this top pocket is quite flat, it actually can hold a lot of really simple items. So let's go through the top pocket now. I have no idea what I'm bringing out, so it's in any order, random order. Okay, so this is a small little plastic container, and I had a full portion of Hammer Nutrition's Daily Essential Kit. So it's their multivitamin, their Race Cap Supreme, and Mito caps. So I did a half a portion at night and then another half portion the next morning, second day. And I just put it in this little plastic container. Okay, also in here is a full sleeve of Hammer Solids. This was emergency nutrition just in case I needed extra nutrition for whatever reason. I didn't use any of this. A Cliff Bar wrapper. Another Ziploc bag, probably left over from, food that I had. I don't even know. Bug netting, just for my head net. I always bring bug netting because, when I was in Alaska, the mosquitoes it was just absolutely insane. You would literally like die if you didn't have bug netting. Actually, I had a full bug suit in Alaska. But I always bring bug netting. This is a tiny Ziploc bag, and this is what I had as my wallet. So all I had in here was my driver's license, a credit card, about $30 worth of cash, and then I put my valet car key in here as well. So that was my entire wallet. Okay, also in here, in another Hammer tube sleeve, are electrolytes. So these are just Hammer Endurolights. So these are pure electrolyte capsules. I'm a huge fan, obviously, of Hammer Nutrition. And I did use some of these on the trip, and they work great. Now, I'm not going to unravel this, but it's 2 bread bags wrapped in a rubber band. It weighs like less than an ounce. But these 2 bread bags they're plastic, so they're 100% waterproof. And the reason I always pack these, even on day hikes, is when I was on the John Muir Trail, we had this freak like tropical storm come through, and I was planning on completely dry weather in the high Sierras, and it was like 35 degrees with 25-mile-an-hour winds and driving rain, and all I had was fleece gloves. They were windproof gloves, but they were fleece. So my hands were soaked, so they were freezing. But if I would have just had some simple plastic waterproof something, it would have been so much better. I didn't need the super, Dyneema mittens or waterproof mittens, Gore-Tex mittens, but just a couple of bread bags are just easy to cover, up to your forearm, and that will protect you completely from water. So I always carry those now. What else is in here? So as a backup water for purification, I've got this little eyedropper style bottle, and this is bleach, and this was my backup water purification. I didn't need it, but for an ounce or two, no big deal. And then right here is my headlamp. So it's not the Nightcore headlamp. It actually costs 25%. So it's 1/4 the cost of the Nightcore. And this is actually just a running headlamp. So when I run, for just regular fitness at nighttime, or if I'm doing volunteer coaching or group running, we have to have our lights. And so this is a 2-pack of lights. It's actually brighter at its high beam. It's brighter than the Night Core. It's USB-C rechargeable, and it's $20 for a 2-pack. I only carried one, but you know, it's only $10. And you've got your bright, medium, low, red, red blue, red flashing, white flashing, and then back to your high beam. And then you just do a 3-second hold and it turns it off. And then I made, okay, I'll just unravel it for you. The way I use rubber bands to keep things together. The way this headlamp works is it's just a simple clip that you can clip onto your strap or your waist or your collar. Not really your bill of your hat, because you have to orient it differently because the clip is like this vertical way. But using Tyvek and some electrical tape, I made a couple of little sleeves on this Tyvek. Oy. It wasn't even this fumbly out there. Now that I'm taking it apart, it's all fumbly. So this little Tyvek headband, and I put some Velcro to attach the pieces together. This is my simple little headlamp, and it weighs like 0.8 ounces for the entire thing. So just making it really simple, lightweight, for basically a $10 headlamp that lasts a really long time, has the high beam, low beam, red light, flashing lights, and you don't need to make the headband, but I did because a strip of Tyvek is nothing. Okay, so that is just in that over-the-top pouch on my Kumo 36 Fast, and that is everything. Okay, so you can see how the straps are cinched all the way down. I could easily put tons more food and or tons more gear, but hopefully it'd be food to carry the same kind of gear and have this taller so I can carry more days of food, so I can use the same pack for multiple days. I would love to try to get like a 3-night, 4-day trip out of this pack. That would be awesome, in my opinion. Okay, there's not a lot in here, so this should be a little quicker. But the first item right on top is my Durston X-Mid Pro 1. This is only 16 ounces. This is the one super expensive item in this entire kit. This is obviously like, you know, 600 whatever dollars, but oh my God, after, you know, nearly 3 decades of backpacking, I just cannot recommend this tent more highly. This is amazing. It is so simple to set up. I always use trekking poles anyway, so it uses that. 4 stakes plus 2 little shepherd hooks at the doors. It goes up easy. It tears down easy. It's waterproof. This is the one person. Everything is just so intuitive. The magnetic tiebacks are so simple. It makes you, you know, want to tie back your outer door or your screen door. You know, on past tents, I might not want to roll back a door because getting that little toggle is so fiddly. It's just not worth it, you know? But when it's so simple, and I actually really like the zippers on the netting where it's 2 different zippers. I love that. It's so simple. And I love having 2 doors. I love having 2 large vestibules. It's just so simple. I just can't say enough, you know, way to go, Dan. And I have communicated with Dan and his partner You guys really rocked it, and it's no wonder why this tent is really like the most popular tent in backpacking nowadays. Okay. Loving on Dan Durston and the X-Mid Pro 1. Okay, you can hear the Nalafume pack liner. You know, gotta have water protection. I did not bring a pack cover. I'll just let the pack get wet and everything is protected on the inside. I did carry a rain jacket just in case. This is Frog Tog's rain jacket. I think it's a small medium. I'm only 5'8". And I even got one little hole, so I patched it with some Tyvek tape. But I didn't need it, thankfully, but this was gonna be my rain protection. Next thing in here is the rest of my food, and there's really nothing left of my food. Actually, so this was a pack of 3 waterproof, lightweight, dry bags from Walmart. It's like 10 or 15 bucks for a pack of 3. They're not any special brand. And inside of it, I do have a smell-proof bag. You know, those smell-proof Ziploc bags. And in here is just my trash, actually, from the trip. So I forgot to go through the hip belt pockets. I'll do that at the end. Okay, so next inside is my toiletries. This is my eyeglass case because I wear contacts and I definitely need glasses. And I've literally had this plastic case for 40 years, so I just keep using it. But in here is a travel toothbrush, dental floss, which I've had to use to sew up a broken backpack, some mini body glide, some Sting Ease, which is just so great for mosquito bites and all, spare contact lenses, some contact lens solution, and baking powder. So I use baking powder typically, especially for shorter trips, baking powder instead of toothpaste, and then I can spit it anywhere and it's not gonna attract bears or rodents or anything like that. That's everything. And again, another Ziploc bag, because it's just so simple. I don't need all these, you know, special $30, you know, stuff sacks and Dyneema bags. It's just not necessary, in my opinion. Okay, next, this is a Sky Goat fleece hoodie. I did wear this in the morning, actually, because it was chilly enough and I just wanted to be comfortable, but it's just a fleece hoodie. I would love to have the Alpha Tech, you know, where it's like 4 ounces for a medium. This is like 9 ounces, but super comfortable. And this was my pillow for my sleep system. Then I have a simple first aid kit. I did bring a spare little Bic lighter or a Bic lighter, some ibuprofen, some anti-diarrhea, antihistamine, some Leukotape. I have some burn cream and some, I can't even read it. Triple antibiotic, and I put those into some other little plastic containers. There's an emergency poncho in here, I think, and definitely an emergency blanket. So that's my first aid kit. There's a lot of stuff in here. Didn't even touch it, rarely ever do touch it, but I'd rather have it. And there was a point in the early 2000s where I was a certified woofer, a wilderness first responder. So having a little bit of first aid, I think is just, you know, safety first. I don't take chances in the backcountry. I'm very conservative. And, you know, thankfully things have gone well for many decades now. Okay, so the last item inside, not the last item. What else is in here? So here's the Nalafume bag. I did bring a 4-ounce wind jacket. This is Patagonia wind jacket. It's a full zip. I packed it just for the comfort. You know, it's a nice insulating layer if there's a little chill. I didn't need it, so that's fine. But I'm really glad I had it. But again, I could have saved weight and not brought it and just used my Frog Togs jacket. That would have been fine. But I brought it because I had room and it wasn't too heavy. And then I also brought the 2-ounce dance pants. Again, very inexpensive on Amazon, very lightweight, they add a lot of warmth for, not like any weight at all. I typically have these wrapped up in a rubber band, but I didn't this time. But super simple. I didn't use them, but that little extra warmth is nice, why not, bring it? And then I did put in my stuff sack because I still like to compress things even more than what I can by getting the air out of the Nylofume bag and pushing everything down in my pack. So I do like, and I also like the extra, water protection of another dry sack. And this is a Sea to Summit, 8-liter Ultrasil dry bag. And, again, when you're packing in such a small, this is just a 36-liter pack, and that's, I think, all of the pockets combined, you really need to compress your volume. And, shout out to Extra Ultralight. I love his channel. I love all the things that he talks about with Ultralight, and you'll hear a lot of like similar information because that's what he's found as well. So in here, in its little stuff sack, I have a silk sleeping bag liner, and I've had this sleeping bag liner for decades. It's only like 4.3 ounces, and this was my main sleeping bag for this trip. But even after like 30 or 45 minutes at night, I actually wanted a little bit more warmth. The temperature was dropping into the 60s. I wanted a little bit more warmth, even in the tent, all zipped up. And so what I had and used was this down throw blanket. So this down blanket only weighs 16 ounces and it's pretty warm, and it packs small, it's down, and it's a throw. I got it on Amazon for like $15. They're more expensive now, but why not use something really simple? $15 for a down throw, and it worked great. I am confident I could easily take this sleep system definitely down to like 55 or 50 degrees and be totally comfortable. And all I was wearing to sleep was this hoodie and these shorts. I didn't even put my fleece on or any jacket on to sleep in, so that would add a lot of warmth as well. And I didn't wear the nylon dance pants for insulation either. I did wear my socks, and by midnight they were completely dried out and they were soaked from sweat. So wearing your socks to sleep, wearing your clothes to sleep will actually dry them out faster typically than any kind of clothesline. I see people using clotheslines all the time and stuff is still like damp the next morning. But if you sleep in your wet clothes, then they dry out so much faster, like from your body heat. So this throw was perfect. I was so comfortable all night long. It was just absolutely perfect. And that's everything in the bag. Now, what I didn't cover was the hip belt pockets. Now, the hip belt for the Fast Kumo Fast, are not load bearing, but I love having the access. And in one pocket, I had almonds and raisins, and this is my leftover food. This is my real leftover food plus the emergency hammer stuff. And I don't even, the hammer gels are in the food bag. But this is all I had left over. So for me, that's really good. And what's nice about the Kumo 36 Fast is that this was even more full with almonds and raisins. So this much fit into the hip belt pocket. So it's pretty large for a small pocket. So that's my leftover food. Almonds, raisins, and peanut butter. And on the other side, nice. On the other side are just a couple of wrappers and trash and wrappers from a bar. And then what I did this time, one second. What I did this time is, this is an old contact lens case, so I put almost a teaspoon of instant coffee on one side and almost a teaspoon of instant decaf coffee on the other side, and this is what I used for my coffee. And then in another old contact lens case, I put my DIY electrolyte mix. So on one side I had a scoop of monk fruit extract, and the scoop is very, very tiny. It's not even a quarter teaspoon. And then a half teaspoon of the DIY electrolyte mix. So I'm going to make a video of that electrolyte mix some other time. I found the recipe on YouTube from somebody else, and I ended up not using it. I ended up using some pre-packaged electrolyte mix. It's like an Element knockoff, and I used half portion twice. So that's what I use in the morning. But every morning in my day-to-day life, I use that DIY electrolyte mix, so that I can just like pound a liter every morning, whether I'm at home or on the trail. I just am always hydrating. But I use this little container for my coffee, and it worked out perfectly, and it was very enjoyable. Okay, so now it's like a little clown car. There's always something more. We didn't talk about my sleeping pad. So on the back, you know, a lot of the Gossamer Gear backpacks, or like almost all of them, have their own proprietary sit pad that you can take out. Years ago, you could put a full sleeping pad back here, like the Z-Lite, the Salt, Thermarest, the closed cell foam accordion style sleeping pads, which I love and have used basically my entire career. And so again, to get, those are about £1. So to get even lighter, I have this sleeping pad, and that's the frame and against my back for padding. I have this sleeping pad. So I'm going to unfold it for you. This is Reflectix insulation. Look at how much this is unfolding. Okay. So this is, whew, this is a mess, right? This is a 24-inch wide, and it started at 10 feet, but I cut it down to 6.5 feet. So 24-inch wide, 6.5 feet of Reflectix insulation. It costs about $12 at Home Depot or Lowe's. And this is my sleeping pad, and it's my frame and back support for my backpack. And I sleep completely comfortable on this. I mean, this is a massive sleeping pad, and this size right here, 24 inches wide by 6.5 feet long, is 7 ounces. And it's like, oh, I could never sleep on, you know, without an inflatable pad. And I understand that, and everybody's got their preferences, but I'm going to make a video very shortly, maybe right after I shoot this video, on how I sleep comfortably on a sleeping pad as minimal as this. Okay, it is possible. I'm not talking about just sleeping on your back or sleeping on your stomach or sleeping on your side. I'm going to get into real detail of actual sleeping positions so that you can sleep comfortably, hopefully, if you try it out, on very firm surfaces with minimal sleeping pad, or even at home in your bed. I mean, I slept on my floor, on the carpeted floor, for over a year because it's just comfortable. I can sleep very comfortably that way. And just as a little aside, my buddy who I went backpacking with the last couple of days, he's done years and years and years of traveling all over the world, every continent except for, I think, Australia and Antarctica. And he has slept on like boards, you know, for months at a time, just like wooden boards, or maybe a thin like cloth straw mat or something. And on this trip, he had a 2-person tent that weighed like 4 or 5 pounds. He didn't even bring a sleeping pad. He literally slept on the ground with only the fabric of the tent between him and the ground. And he slept completely fine. And for his sleeping bag, he just brought a sheet That was it, like a cloth, like cotton sheet, like bed sheet. And he slept completely fine. So it's part of what you get used to, but I think we've gotten so like overcomplicated with our sleeping. And to be perfectly honest, you know, regular beds with mattresses have only been around like 100 years. For tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, humans have slept on the ground or on thin straw mats for millennia. So I think we can simplify. Again, you don't have to carry what you want, carry what works for you. But if you want to simplify your system and not have to worry about the air mattress and the possibility of it popping, inflating, getting a hole, and, you know, bringing an air pump or a pump sack or your breath after a long day of hiking, there are simpler ways that cost. I mean, this was $12 in Reflectix insulation. And I slept great. I'm always tracking my sleep on my Garmin watch. And usually the first night out, I don't sleep as well. But my sleep score was like 71. And that's right with my average. My average sleep, even at home, is in the low 70s. And my sleep score on trail the other night was 71. So for me, that's a great night's sleep. And that was even underrated because I think the watch didn't detect like 2 hours of my sleep. It only came up with like 5 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. And I know I slept like over 7.5 hours. So my sleep score probably would have been even higher. And then speaking of Garmin data, because I love the data, is I woke up in the morning and my body battery was up to like 66. And I went to bed and it was like 20 or 19. So that's low. Going to bed, that's a low body battery for me, down in the 20s. Usually I'm in like the mid to high 30s when I go to bed at night, day to day. So I was around 20 or 19 when I went to sleep, got up to 66. So I had extremely restorative sleep. I gained like 53 points in my body battery, which for me, a 53-point gain overnight is very good. So it was a great night's sleep, very restorative, and I'm pleased. And that was on this really simple Reflectix homemade sleeping pad. And I'm very confident that I could take this down to like 30 degrees, certainly to 40 degrees, because I've used the closed cell foam sleeping pads down to below freezing without any problem my entire backpacking career. So that is the full loadout. Again, the base weight was right around 10 pounds. I'm not going to weigh it all again or anything, but it worked out well. Oh, and the only really expensive item in this whole kit is the tent. And that is a premium, top of the line Dyneema tent, which I absolutely love. But I also love my Six Moon Designs Gatewood Cape shelter with, you know, a 1 ounce, that only weighs 11 ounces for the Gatewood Cape tarp, which Extra Ultralight talks about all the time. He's done lots of videos. He loves the Gatewood Cape, and I do too. I've had it since like 2008 or something, and I love the Gatewood Cape. And it's 11 ounces, and it's your rain gear also, but you do need a ground sheet with it. I'd recommend one anyway. And you can do like a polycro piece of plastic, which is like 1 ounce. That's fine. I typically will take Tyvek, which is about, a Tyvek sheet ends up being about 6 ounces. And I've also used my Tyvek sheet as a rain skirt because it's waterproof. But between an 11 ounce Gatewood Cape tarp and a 6 ounce piece of Tyvek, you know, I'm at like a pound anyway. So why not use the Durston X-Mid Pro 1 for a pound and get all the features of a full enclosed tent with bug netting. And even though I will need rain gear on top of that, for me, it's just much more comfortable to have the full tent at a pound rather than the tarp and the ground sheet. You know, but it just depends on what the trip is and what I'm trying to do. I actually carried the Gatewood Cape tarp for a 7-night trip in the Sawtooth Wilderness back in 2016. So every night in the Gateway Cape, and that was fine for a full week. It worked out perfectly. So, you know, you make these different trade-offs of what gear you want for what occasion and what terrain and what conditions you're expecting and what level of comfort or discomfort you want or what your goals are. But this super simple kit with all of these little items, you know, still was only like 10 pounds for a really, really wonderful trip. So that is everything. I've gone on long enough, but I didn't really want to try to rush this. But I just wanted to share with you a way of packing light, packing inexpensively. And again, the Gatewood Cape is like $130. And, you know, rather than a couple $100 for an air mattress, you can get $12 learning sleeping positions with a piece of Reflectix, using a $15 down throw. And you know, this cork ball is not from some massage website or anything. This is actually a wine decanter cork ball, which you can get like 4 of them for $8. So rather than spending $15 on one cork ball from some massage place, you can get the same cork ball, 4 of them for like $8. You know, just go to Amazon. So there's lots of different ways of meeting your needs. Okay. Again, the dual purpose Nalgene for, you can make a hot water bottle if you've got a stove and it's cold, but definitely for rolling, ease of filtering into, ease of adding powders. And you've got the structure of it. I mean, geez, you can, you know, smack somebody over the head with this thing and really do some damage. So everything is really pretty simple. My kitchen with the snap together bowls, $10 for a whole set, you know, and it's just, you don't need Dyneema stuff sacks and bags. Just use Ziploc bags. You know, it's totally fine. You don't need $200 wind pants. You can get, well, these are about $30 now, but for 2 ounces, you can get wind pants, you know, online on Amazon. So I'm not sponsored by Amazon in any way, but I do appreciate the convenience that the company does provide. So, okay, so that's everything. Now I'm really rambling on, but I hope this has been helpful. I'd love to hear some of your hacks, you know, like the running light for your headlamp or the bread bags for your hand protection. You can bring regular grocery bags for feet protection if it's really downpouring day after day, or you're going to be walking through a lot of water. There are a lot of little hacks that are just super simple, super lightweight, easily accessible. Just get creative and you can do it too. So now, before I get too sunburned on my head, I will end the video now, and I hope it was helpful. I hope you got some ideas, some insights for your next backpacking or fast packing, or to build out your gear closet even more. I hope it's been fun for you. It's been fun for me going through it. So until next time, peace, love, and connect.